Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to talk about a really interesting topic today that was inspired by a question that one of you had asked me. This question is from Marcos. Would love your thoughts in the next Dragon video perhaps about the current state of luxury now that LVMH, Chanel, Kering, etc. all down and Bernard Arnault has said that they can no longer rely on top spenders to carry LVMH. What do you think the essays are going to be told to cut some of the nonsense? This is obviously in regards to dragging videos and things like that. This is a great question. I've been thinking about it for a few days, so I wanted to answer it now. I think there's a complex answer, but the short answer is they're going to cut some of the nonsense, but they won't cut it completely. It's a complicated answer because so much of the way essays interact with people is marketing. This is why I'm always saying that the essay can't be your friend. The person can't be your friend when their livelihood depends on you buying things. Okay. But, if we look at the current situation of luxury shopping and the luxury industry, of course, sales are down. I mean, even for us on here who have these pages as a hobby, I can definitely speak for me. I don't know if other content creators are watching this, but definitely for me, as someone who's doing this as a hobby, I have multiple businesses. I do that, and I also have a baby now, so I'm also focused on him. So when I have spare time, I can squeeze in some of these videos. And my maternity leave has ended. And even for me, like I said, just doing this as a hobby, definitely the interest has gone down. There's no question about it. The interest has definitely decreased in the English speaking world. I have noticed some super interesting trends, which I want to mention now, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll tell you that in a minute, and then I'll forget. But I've been watching a lot of content creators from Asia who are vlogging in their languages. So they're vlogging in like Japanese and Korean and Mandarin and Cantonese and Vietnamese and Thai and so on and so forth. And I've noticed that there's definitely an increase in views on that side because people are vlogging in their languages, which makes sense because Asian luxury spending is the number one spending by like region in the world if we look at the regions of the world. So to answer Marcus's question, I think it's yes and no. The views and interest in luxury is definitely down, even for me as like a hobbyist, like content creator, whatever you want to call this. But that doesn't mean that there still aren't people sticking around. There still aren't people watching and enjoying the things that I'm posting. It just means that at least in the English speaking space, there are not as many people as before. But what I did notice was there is a massive shift even in the people who watch my content. So while there's been a decrease in the English speaking contingent of Anglophone, so Anglophone people watching my luxury content videos, there's been an increase in people from Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Chinese people who speak Mandarin, because YouTube, you can't access YouTube in mainland China, but you can access it, I believe, in Hong Kong, and you can access it in Macau. There's been an increase in people from Singapore, from Taiwan, and from Thailand as well, who are supporting. There are a lot of people from the Middle East who support me. And that's why I added the subtitles to my videos. I know some of you may be curious, like, why are you adding subtitle tracks to some of your videos? Why not rely on the automated AI captions? Well, there are a few things I noticed about the captions. First of all, the captions are not accurate. And I noticed this once when I was watching one of my videos that didn't have the subtitle track that I had made, and they spelled my name wrong multiple times, and that was just so frustrating to see my name spelled wrong. So I was like, this is really annoying. So then I started experimenting by adding the subtitle track so I could reach more people. I don't like dubbing. I don't watch content that's dubbed. So I disabled that feature on YouTube Studio. That's why my videos can't be dubbed. If some of you might be curious, like, how come I can't dub your videos? You can't, because I've disabled that. So when I started adding these subtitle tracks, and I don't add the subtitle tracks to every single video because I've like contracted someone who does it like per video. If I think the video will be successful, I will add the subtitle track. If I think many people won't watch the video, I probably won't add the track. But what I noticed with the subtitle tracks was that there was just a huge like burst of people from non-Western countries who love luxury and who don't speak English who were supporting me. Now that doesn't really that is a completely different view from what I expected. The Anglophone and English speaking luxury viewers were decreasing. But then people who were speaking um, non-Western languages like Japanese, like Korean, like Mandarin and Vietnamese and Arabic was supporting me. There are people in other African countries who are watching my subtitled videos in their native African languages, which is a massive honor, and I'm so honored that people are engaging with me. So what does all of that mean? That means that the shifts of luxury are there's a kind of tectonic shift of luxury. Luxury is a global village today. It is not centered just on Western perspectives. And I think one of the problems with those like luxury is dead videos, they are very focused on a Anglophone Western view of what's going on in luxury. If you see a lot of those luxury is dead, Louis Vuitton shops are empty, Hermes shops are empty. It's always focused on what's happening perhaps in North America or maybe, what's happening in the UK. That does not tell the full story of what's going on. So, for example, because I came with receipts because I'm not fighting with the girls. If you actually like read Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy's like the most recent quarter that they posted, they did their earnings call where they answer questions. I thought this was really interesting. Um, they answer questions about like how things are going and how things are going in China and stuff. So here's what's really interesting. Yes, there is a decrease in revenues in China. The luxury industry is definitely kind of dealing with this right now, like how to encourage Chinese customers to come back. But there are a few things that are going on that are super interesting. So for example, revenues from Japan are up. So at Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, the regional mix was Europe and the US, 25% of revenue. Asia was 28%. And it's always Asia excluding Japan. Japan is always seen as a separate market. And Japan increased from 7% to 9%. Okay. So that actually mirrors a lot of luxury earning calls that I've been reading from a wide range of brands that have been talking that the revenues coming from Japan have actually been either stable or they're increasing for a lot of brands. So while there are these big declines across the board, that's true, it doesn't tell the full story. And that is my issue with a lot of the luxury is dead content, is people just want to lead with luxury's dead, luxury's over, shops are empty. They're not empty everywhere. And it's, of course, it's a very valid point that maybe in your town or city where you're from, maybe there is a decline. But that's going to happen in a slowdown. You cannot have a continuous boom of luxury. It can't be continuous. It's always going to be boom and bust. And I mean, we're talking about brands that have survived world wars. We're talking about brands that have survived the founders of their houses being deleted. That happened to Versace. I mean, how horrific that must have been. And God rest him. And the brand not only survived but became $1 billion brand. These brands have been through a lot. I think that they can handle an economic downturn that isn't affecting every corner of the world. And I think that's also something else to note. This isn't 2008. 2008 was like the entire world melted down. The subprime mortgage crisis affected so many banks around the world. Okay, this isn't that. There are a lot of kind of different themes that I think we need to think about here. And I'm not saying that because I think that means it's true. But in terms of reference to Marcus's question, yes, of course, sales are down, but there are signs of a recovery and there are green shoots. So I don't know if that necessarily means that essays are nicer to you. And I think also it depends like the brand that the essay works for. Because I think brands like Big H, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, frankly even Dior, I feel like they don't have to like run around clients that much. I think there's nothing wrong with your essay letting you know if there's new stuff for sale. I find it, by the way, I just a quick tangent here. I find it really strange when people are like, my Big H essay contacted me to let me know they're selling this, or my Louis Vuitton essay let me know about this, or my Chanel essay told me about the new collection. I saw someone post this in a Chanel group that their Chanel essay told them about a new collection that was coming. It's like the person's job is sales associate or sales assistant, or at Chanel's case, they're called fashion advisors, whatever you want to call them. They are sales associates. That's the person's job, is to sell you things. Okay, like why shouldn't they like tell you that something's available? I'm so bewildered and confused. People say you want essays to be nice to you and let you know that something's being sold. But then if they tell you something's being sold, you're like, oh, that must mean that they don't really have business. No, it just means someone's doing their job so they can hit their targets for the month because this is a job. And then if they don't contact you, people are like, oh well, they don't think that I'm special enough, or they don't think I make them enough money. I mean, come on guys, like we need to pick a side and stick there. So I think with Marcus's question about, does this mean that essays will cut the nonsense, it really depends on the brand and on the market. There's certain markets that are not as affected by this sort of economic ups and downs as other markets. So like the big H boutiques in the Middle East, the big H boutiques in Asia, for example, there's a lot of competition there. Even right now, there's still a lot of competition. There might be some softening where maybe, it might be a little bit easier to compete just because maybe there might be a few like fewer big spenders, but there's still people going to the store and spending. And to that point, there was an interesting response from Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy on their earnings call. And earnings calls are very easy to find. If you just put an earnings call, it'll come up. They were asked a question by an analyst. I wanted to read it out. The analyst asked, could you provide more information about the performance in various geographies, especially regarding Chinese and American customers? Okay. Answer. Chinese customers remained stable in 2024 with a positive performance in the first half of the year and slightly less in the second half of the year. The situation improved in Q4, particularly in fashion and leather goods. Now, this is really interesting because that's Q4, so that's the final quarter of 2024. In the US, the customer base was stable with a negative trend in the first half of the year and a positive trend in the second half, though changes were minor. So that means that there's a slight improvement in American luxury spending, and the Chinese customer base for luxury goods for LVMH is stable. It doesn't mean it's a massive increase, it's booming, but what it means is that they're green shoots and things are beginning to improve a little bit. Now, obviously, this is a massive like conglomerate. They have so many brands and so on and so forth, but we are seeing those green shoots. The sort of the fact that the Chinese luxury customer is stable. We're also seeing an increase of Chinese tourists who are shopping in Europe. This was mentioned in another article that I was reading. And then also the fact that luxury spending in Japan has increased from 7% to 9%. And that's a mixture of local Japanese clients and tourist spending from the Chinese mainland as well. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I feel like with these luxury's dying, luxury essays and this and this and this, and they can't stop contacting me because they have no one in their stores. They're doing their job. Okay. I'm expanding my company right now, and I'm going to be hiring people to do like business development for one of my brands. That person's job is to sell. That's your job. Okay, your job is not to sit there and sit in the office and look cute and not actually do your job, which is to sell. Okay, so I'm very confused when people are like, oh, the SA contacted me and sent me a lookbook. What is the SA supposed to do? It's not conversation associate, it's not friend associate, it is sales associate. Okay, what I do think we'll see, I think there'll be more opportunities to stand out at brands now if you shop during a quiet time. It's definitely a quiet time now, but honestly, I think that the luxury shopping space will rebound soon. And I think it's going to rebound. I think by 2027, things will probably have leveled off and be fine. Because if we're seeing signs of green shoots and a recovery now, and there are green shoots here, we will be seeing like things kind of, things kind of chill out. I think by 2027, we should see things, basically calm down. Because essentially what happened is there was a massive boom in luxury spending because of the panoramic that happened, which is now 5 years ago. That's insane to think that's 5 years ago. So you had this kind of inflated luxury boom from like 5 years ago, and the bubble burst. And that's what happens when there is a bubble. It was a bubble of spending. I know that many of you big H people are like, oh, but big H, but big H, but big H, but Prada. It is not possible to sustain like that over and over and over again. There'll be a time when they also go through ups and downs, because that's just how things are. Things are going really well for them right now because they're less susceptible to the sort of like to super trendy things. The quiet luxury trend, I have to say, I give Big H credit. They didn't lean too hard into it. They were just kind of, doing their thing, putting their wigs on. Prada, doing well. They have Miu Miu. I was reading Ferragamo's results, and basically they were saying that their wholesale, like, so that's like sales to department stores, has actually increased, and they're doing well there. They're making strides in Asia, and they did really well in America. Okay, so there are green shoots in the luxury industry. And just to be clear, I'm not a shill for the luxury industry. I don't get paid any money for the luxury industry. It's not anything like that. My thing is, like, I want us to discuss this stuff from an intellectually sound platform, and to be very fair to discussing the situation fairly. I don't like the way people kind of sensationalize this and only tell it from a sort of Western Anglophone perspective, especially because since I've been experimenting with trying to reach more people around the world through using language, I have seen that luxury is really this global village. The idea that if luxury brands are failing in Europe and America and Canada, then that means they're failing worldwide. That's a very colonial, imperial way of thinking of the world. And frankly, it's a very outdated, and like I said, it's a very colonial way of thinking. The world is diverse, and there are luxury brands and luxury stores everywhere. And the world is not just like European luxury brands or luxury brands that are more geared towards, European fashion and so on and so forth. It's many things. It's hotels. It's spending, buying cars. That can tell us a lot. Like, are people, spending, good money at luxury hotels? Are people spending good money, going on trips? Are people spending good money buying cars? To me, I don't think Tesla is a luxury brand. I was fighting with someone in a car group about Tesla. I mean, no, no. I don't think it is. Now you might think Tesla is a luxury brand. That's great. I don't think Tesla is a luxury brand. Are people buying like the electric Porsches? Perhaps. Maybe people are buying those. So I think that when we're having this discussion about luxury spending and treatment in the store, it depends wholly on the brand. Certain brands are going to chase customers more, as they should. That's the person's job. Why are people trying to make essays feel bad about letting them know that hey, we have a lookbook, would you like to see it? That's your job, is to show me things. Like, I don't understand. I'm so confused about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so bewildered and confused. That's the first one. And then I think also we will see further exclusivity with the brands that are less susceptible to that. So that's like brands like Big H, frankly, even Louis Vuitton, because what Louis Vuitton have done with the Murakami launch is, I think they've definitely been testing to see if they can create a group of people. I think, excuse me, maybe I should take that back. I think that they have been testing to see if they can create, FOMO, but also if they can create a lot of demand for launches in order to get people really, really invested in the brand. People were so invested in this Murakami launch, and people were so passionate about it. You saw it in Facebook groups, you saw it here on YouTube, you saw it on the Louis Vuitton subreddit. Like, people were so passionate about the Murakami launches, the 3 launches. So perhaps, like, we will see maybe Louis Vuitton maybe create this kind of sense of exclusivity through the way essays allocate things and stuff, because I think that is a possibility. But I definitely think that in a quieter time, you're going to hear from essays more if you're someone who purchased before in the past. Why shouldn't they, contact you? So that's my kind of answer to that. I think it's yes and no. I think there's certain brands that maybe price their stuff too high. I think Gucci comes to mind, maybe just a little bit expensive. I think that they should retool their pricing a little bit. But Gucci's issues is not actually a Gucci problem. It's the people running Gucci problem. Like, getting rid of their star creative director, they replaced him with someone who's super talented. They didn't give him time to cement his vision. I'm really shocked that the industry executives who run these brands don't understand that the public is very up to date and in tune with what's going on. We don't want to see musical chairs every week. If I'm shopping at Gucci, I don't want the creative director to lose his job every 4 months just because you didn't like the results, the financial results for the quarter. You know what I mean? So that's also like another discussion that we can have. But I think in general, luxury spending, I think, will go up eventually. And I think 2027 is when we should probably see some stability. But we're already seeing signs of a very, very, very quiet recovery. You know, they talked all about quiet luxury and quiet this. We are seeing a quiet, tentative recovery. You can see it in Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy's results. If you read Ferragamo's results, you can see it. They had a decline in sales, but it wasn't as big as last year when I was reading the results. And they're doing well in Japan, they're doing well in the Middle East, and they did really well with their wholesale line, and they've improved in America. So we're seeing a sort of recovery. It's a slow, tentative recovery. And this reminds me of something that a Bulgari executive had said. I believe it was last year. I was reading an article, and I think it was actually the CEO of Bulgari. And he was saying that the top spenders from China and Japan are coming back to Europe. So they're going to Milan, they're going to Rome, they're going to London, they're going to Paris and Amsterdam and so on and so forth. But they're spending more money at Bulgari, but they're not as many of them. So there are fewer tourists from China and Japan going to Europe, but the tourists who are going to Europe are spending more. I think one of the problems with a lot of this like luxury is dead content is it kind of feeds on the audience's, like, if I can be blunt, and I'm not gonna like be a fence sitter, I'm not gonna be Humpty Dumpty, I'm gonna take a perspective and a point of view. I think most of you, if you're watching this far, you know that I have my opinion. I'm happy to hear yours. So please don't be offended, but this is how I feel. I feel like a lot of that content that's filmed, it takes advantages of people's insecurities and people's fears about money. And I think also it taps into people's biases that they have about other people, right? Because if you look at a lot of the sort of luxuries dead, Hermes stores are empty, Hermes made in China, Hermes CEO suing people in China. It's not true. That's not happening. It takes advantage of people's insecurities. We've seen this with a lot of this content. If you read the comment sections of a lot of those videos, you'll see people saying things like, I always felt like I needed to have a luxury like handbag, but now like I don't feel that way. Logos don't define me. People are just like, looking for all kinds of people are like really pouring their hearts out, basically explaining in a really strange way, in almost a parasocial way, which I find really creepy, by the way. It's a little bit parasocial that they feel like these brands have made them feel a certain way, and now they're not going to spend their money on them. They're going to spend their money on experiences. They're going to spend their money on mid-range brands. It almost seems like a personal thing, which I find really strange. I think it's parasocial, and I think frankly it's odd. Okay. And I think that if you're someone who's like, you're over like high-end luxury, that's fine. If you want to, shop the mid-range brands, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think also you need to ask yourself, do you want your like biases confirmed? Do you want your confirmation bias confirmed? And is that why these videos or this like subject matter is resonating? Because if you look at the actual results, the results point to a recovery. It's going to be a slow recovery. It's going to be a quiet recovery. It was quiet luxury. We're going to call it quiet recovery. But the girls are recovering and they'll be fine. I mean, I think that there was a really strange kind of almost glee and happiness that Chanel's revenues had decreased. I thought it was really strange. Again, parasocial and creepy that people were like, yes, Chanel's revenues decreased. They can no longer increase prices. Chanel survived World War One. Chanel survived World War II. Chanel survived the founder of their house, Gabrielle Coco Chanel, fighting with the financier of their house. And they went in on each other, honey. Okay, they were fighting. And then finally, he paid her a royalty every year, the equivalent of $25 million today. Okay, after World War II, after they had reconciled and so on and so forth. If you think Chanel has seen tougher times, go into their history. They're going to be just fine. That's why I didn't even bother filming a video about them, because they'll be fine. So I guess that my kind of feeling on all of this is I still think that there's a lot of interest in luxury. I can see it in my content, but I think that there is a decrease in luxury from the English speaking audience on YouTube. But there's a lot of interest from other countries. People speak Arabic, people speak Japanese, people speak Chinese. Mandarin and Cantonese, people who speak Vietnamese, people who speak Thai. There's a lot of interest from African supporters of my channel, but I didn't realize that even the people who support me from African countries are really enjoying reading subtitles in their language, even though they're from countries where people speak English, and I'm absolutely sure they speak English too. So I'm also learning that we have these new shifts, and even I forgot to mention the really popular languages from Europe. Whenever I have those subtitles on, I was really shocked at how popular languages. I didn't know that people from Spain were watching my videos. There are people in Spain watching my videos. Anytime I put a video with a subtitle track, I know I'm going to see the following languages: French, of course, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Finnish. There are people in Finland. Hi guys, who are supporting me. There are people in Iceland who are watching my videos in Icelandic. Sweden, Norway. We live in a global village. So I would say that when you're watching this content, when you're thinking about, is luxury dead, is luxury dying, don't think that you are the center of the universe. And just because it's not doing well in London or it's not doing well in New York does not mean it's not lit, it's not popping in Tokyo. It doesn't mean it's not lit, it's not popping in Singapore. It doesn't mean it's not lit, it's not popping in Johannesburg. And that's the thing that I find a little bit irritating about some of these videos, is they're very focused on the Western Anglophone experience of luxury, which is just one of many. Okay, so then I'm going to get off my soapbox for now. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'd love to see you guys stick around. I'm now planning I think, we're going to go this summer, but I think it's going to be late summer, early autumn, my trip to Europe. So when I'm in Europe, you will see it up on the channel. I have so many great things to show you. We'll be going to Paris, but we'll also be going to, I think, another European city. So I'll have videos from that city. I'll keep that city close to myself for now because I have to go apply for visas and stuff. I think we'll be applying for that very soon. So I'll keep you updated. And yeah, I'm super excited to go to Europe and to go to luxury shops. There are no luxury stores in my country. There are a few things I was looking at Farfetch and Louisa Via Roma, so I'm thinking about maybe picking those up before getting ready to plan on going on the trip. So anyway, if you like luxury content, I'm still around. I will still be posting. I would love to have you here. And let me know what you think about everything. If you use the English subtitles, let me know, because I do also put subtitles in English, again, to observe and see how many people are using them. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I'll see you very soon in my next video.